had it down for 2:45.
Yeah, well, that works for me too. And I'm never early, so this was cool.
Really? You're never early for anything? Let me turn this down over here for a second, real fast.
No,
So
I'm never early for anything.
I was
Nothing.
in the middle of a few things there when you call when you were. I was getting texts from Taryn.
Much to my husband's frustration, I am never early for anything.
Oh, really?
Can you see us both okay? I can't say that's my strong point either. Can you both see us okay? Are we coming
Yeah,
in?
I can see you guys just fine. Not
Are
a
we too
problem.
bright? Is that
Yeah. Yeah.
better? We
What,
got our
what do you
light
have? We're all wearing stuff around our necks. What do you have on?
Oh, I've just got on a it's either the Shakti, I think it's Shakti, the carved out of ivory.
Okay.
So I think that's the girl, Indian girl god that they believe in. And you know what? This is interesting because a girlfriend of mine gave it to me on the day that I married Mark.
Oh.
Yeah, because we studied with Deepak Chopra.
Oh.
And yes, I've done a couple of things. Mark and I have done a couple of things with Deepak. So
basis. Oh, you and Deepak, we're just all just Deepak. We call him D for short, but
no, we've had the fascinating experience of spending a lot of time with him before we were married. So we're somebody who didn't have to dream or wish or just read about him. We actually did spend some very close time with him. So
what's he like?
What's he like?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a very nice man, and he's a total genius. And when I say that, he has a what do you call it when you can memorize everything you read?
An eidetic memory.
Yeah, he has a memory. He when he lectures, he was with us 13 hours a day lecturing, and the man does not use a book. So it's a photographic memory, and he uses no materials when he lectures, even for 13 hours a day.
No materials.
So he's absolutely amazing. He is totally nice.
I need notes to remind me to go to the bathroom, man. I mean, good grief.
Oh yeah, we were all mesmerized. And
yeah, I've heard that about him. I've heard he's like, if he comes off to TV, he's got that sort of low key, but they say he's like very charismatic in a way, especially you meet him.
He is. And the thing is, it's like what Mark and I experienced was him in a small group. Mark's group was bigger than mine. I was in a class with him with 12 people.
Right.
So we all got to actually know him really well. And it was the most amazing experience.
I bet.
And then I worked with him in one of his huge group seminars. And this, I have to tell you this story because this is so funny. At this seminar, this huge group seminar, they actually, because I had a background of producing videos, I said, I'll do that job for you. And there was, of course, the, what do you call it? The crow's nest in the auditorium where I was running up and down all day, working with the guy who ran the AV equipment and everything. But because we had some very famous people come in and also perform for the group, one of them was Gary Wright. You remember Dreamweaver?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm old enough to remember that song.
Yeah, well, because I was the person who was working with all of the audio-visual material, and I got to be the one that took him, and it was like, in case you don't know, with auditoriums, behind the scenes, there's this whole catacombs.
Oh, yeah, I'm familiar with that.
And then going up to the crow's nest and all of this. And I was the person who had to get to know all of that because I was in charge of it. So Gary Wright gets there, and there was someone that greeted him, and then they brought him back to me, and to make sure that I could take him around and to the stage and all of that. Well, while we were in that process, I told the guys, the gentleman who was also helping him, and Gary, who's very nice also, guys.
You're on first name basis with him too. You probably call him the Big G or the Big D Weaver. Or, I don't know. You have a nickname.
GW.
Yeah, DW.
Yeah.
Hey, DW.
These guys, and they just kind of, I didn't realize when he was coming. So all of a sudden I find out as he comes down the hallway and they're going, Di, this is Gary White. Gary, this is Di. And I was like, oh, nice to meet you.
Yeah,
we'll make sure you get around, whatever you need. And I said, but guys, first, after I took them around and everything, I said, guys, I have to go use the girls' room. I really need to use the ladies' room. So I went into the ladies' room and I sit down, right? And the next thing I know, someone's knocking on the door.
In the ladies' room?
Okay.
Yeah, knocking on the door. And all of a sudden I heard the door open just a little bit.
Ah.
And all of a sudden the guys, Gary and the other gentleman, are going, Di. And I said, yes. And they said, it's us, it's Gary. I said, yes, how can I help you? And mind you, I'm sitting in a stall. And I said, how can I help you? And they said, well, as soon as you come out, we need to know where such and such is. And I said, no problem. I'll be out in a minute.
Can you just give me a minute here?
Yeah, I said, just a minute and I'll be out. But I thought, this is a great story I'll never forget. That when I was working with Gary Wright that day, I had to go to the bathroom and the guys got lost and they came back and knocked on the door.
They just followed you into the ladies' room and
the ladies' room on the toilet. I
thought, hey, No,
that was really, I thought that story is a keeper. It was, and I had so much fun with him and he was the nicest guy.
He's the guy who sang the song Dream Weaver. Is that what you're saying?
Mid-70s?
70s?
Yeah. I just thought that was so.
Maybe he's a rock star. They all just use the same restroom, or he was just ahead of his time. I don't know.
The little knock on the door, very quietly. Knock, knock, knock. And then the opening, slightly, you could tell it was just a little.
Maybe he was gay. Maybe he was gay, and he was like, I don't know. I don't really about that. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if he is or not. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But
and he played Dream Weaver, and of course, that is the best song.
It's a great song. It's a classic. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of that's a long story about.
We don't have anything near as interesting about.
Yeah, we have a clip worse.
Yeah, we got it at little 5
and
points. Oh, and it's just a side note. Let's go and get this out of the way. Can we go and tell them, Todd?
Go ahead.
Todd, of course, Todd has seizures, as you know, and he had a seizure Tuesday, was it? And he bit his lip, and it's still sore, so he sounds like a 5-year-old.
Oh, Todd. Well,
it's okay.
It's okay. We got. It's a lie. He sounds like the guy from Princess Bride. Marriage. Marriage. Love. True love. Todd sounds like Princess Bride guy.
Eric, don't be
At the end of the day, he was like, don't talk to me.
Don't talk to him. I told him not to talk either. So Todd today is doing his 5-year-old version of Todd here. He might talk about love, marriage.
Let's hear it.
And May is NF Awareness Month.
Yeah, and so that's a good sort of segue. May is NF Awareness Month.
And back in February, we had Cupid's Underrun, and Crash Clark was there from 11 Alive and took our picture.
No, we talked about that.
And he's supported. So now it's just.
So just as a quick plug before we jump on, because I know you had something you wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
No, but Todd's sort of invigorating his whereeasylivingbegins.com website.
Right.
We're working on it now to get it ready for NF Awareness Month. So he's going to talk a little bit more about NF there. We've done some updates to it now, but in a few days, hopefully you can go to it now. It's still there. It just we're adding some stuff to it about NF and kind of retooling it as sort of an NF awareness site and all that kind of stuff. And information.
Talk about it now.
Well, just go to whereeasylivingbegins.com.
Yeah, it'll be on there.
It's live right now. There's some NF stuff there, but we're going to be adding more to it. I think we got some stuff there we got an interview I think he did with Taryn about his NF and that's out there. So,
that's great. Where easy living begins now.
Yeah, but where easylivingbegins.com.
Okay.
Yeah, where easy living begins. We call it Wellbe. Where easylivingbegins.com. WELB. Where easy living begins.
Like, be well.
Todd, I can't tell you that. Yeah, that was a neighborhood, something he saw growing up.
We had a road sign in our front yard on Devonshire Woods. Because we live on Devonshire Drive, and underneath it says where easy living begins. I'm going to use that one day.
Wow.
I use that in book.
I know. I'll say because he said, well, if you're living where
we didn't have websites in the 60s. But I'll write a book about it. I'm going to use that one day. But that sign's it's been torn down.
So, but so we got the domain where easy and
I have a picture of me and my brother under that sign.
Where easylivingbegins.com. That's his site. It's there. It just needs. We're adding some stuff to it during the month of May about NF.
It's about positive attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got it. Todd's website. Absolutely.
That's all.
That's very cool.
I know.
Very cool.
It's got a website.
I congratulate you. That's a big thing to do.
Yeah.
Really big. And you're going to keep it up to date.
Yeah, it needs some new stuff on it now. He hasn't put anything on it, but we're just doing some technical updates to it.
I want to like video things like this.
Yeah.
And,
but he just has some of the old interviews he did with Taryn about that many years ago. I think you're on there too. I think there's some interviews that you did. Is it there? There's some stuff on there. And, he's posted some of those on there. So, you know.
Well, that's cool.
On where easy living begins.
That's awesome. Just Todd.
So you texted us earlier that you had.
I did.
And so you texted us about, and just kind of tell me what you texted us about, what you wanted to, what was your question? Tell us what your.
I read this article about, it was specifically about virtual boyfriends. And it talks about this company called Replica. Now, we can talk about both virtual boyfriends and girlfriends because it turns out the site is 50-50 right now. It used to be almost totally men. Now it's 50% men, 50% women, but they wrote it about women and virtual boyfriends because this is kind of a new thing. And of course, when men were doing it, you know, and still are, it's pretty much all about the women they fantasize about. It still is. In fact, it talks about how with men, it's pretty much, they usually like to do lots of women in their replica fantasies. And they go through, you know.
You sure this is a Pornhub? It sounds like it's Pornhub.
It used to be. It basically used to be. And, you know, they based a lot of that on the fact that men in the Asian countries have been doing this for a long time. You know, because blow-up dolls basically came from the Asian countries, okay? So, and they brought it here. And now it's just a more technical version of blow-up dolls. Only this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about, because I do not understand the fact that now, but women are making it more relational. They're creating like one individual man to bring to their lives that give them a fulfilling companion. A companion who will.
I've read about this, like about this lady who fell in love with an artificial intelligence, right? Or there's been but it's the best companion she's had because he talks to her, listens to her.
Talks to her. He fulfills her emotionally. And it's a lot of women who have had bad relationships. They may have had relationships that were very physically abusive. They also talk about women who have husbands who are terminally ill, and they are looking, and the guy apparently knows that, maybe not, that she goes to her computer, she goes to this company called Replica, and she fires up this man who can give her the emotional and physical relationship she's missing because her husband is terminally ill.
But he can give her, and she can get the physical. Is that what you said? I can understand emotional, but he can
This is what I wanted to ask you about. Okay, but here's another thing though. She can also put together virtually children.
Okay.
Let's say she can't have children. She can also create
Virtual.
children that she will go to, and then it gives her children. And they talk about how she can create babies because she can't have babies. And so my question is this all online? So these are people that she can't have any physical contact with.
Right.
And they talk about the women, and they interviewed a lot of women, you know, I mean, because they say, well, you can understand why the men were on there because men are visual.
Right.
They can have all these women parading on screen doing stuff that will really turn them on.
Right.
And this is not new for men. But for women to do this is very new. But again, they do it in relationship to one guy that they create on Replica. And they call him a boyfriend, and then they create like beach scenarios where they'll go to the beach with that boyfriend. The boyfriend will come to dinner. The boyfriend will have children with them, which I find very interesting as a concept. And the boyfriend, and this is the thing, the boyfriend has sex with them.
Okay, so that's the question I really would like to ask you about. So the boyfriend has sex with her. All right. So first of all, I brought the website up over here on my other screen. So I'm looking at it right now. It's called replica.com. All right. The AI companion who cares. That's what its screen says. All right.
What women want is someone who cares.
Right.
Someone they can talk to, someone who won't beat them, someone who won't be
right. Exactly. So this is safe. This is a safe, like, I mean, it's basically so just so you know, to me, when and I've read about this stuff before, and you know, and I'm an online techie kind of guy, and I'm big into AI. I'm not just have been recently. I've been for a while. You know, I know that's a big topic right now. But this is also an AI version of nothing new, right? I mean, didn't in the 90s everybody have a 900 number where you could call and talk to somebody online, and it was probably some fat lady doing her ironing in, you know, Podunk, Canada, you know, but she sounded sexy and she would talk to you, and then you would have what they would call phone sex. So I guess the question I'm having you, are they having like virtual sex, like they talk to them, or because you know there's some other things that can be. I don't know how much you're ready for this, but there's some other things technologically you can do sexually that I'm not sure if you're aware of or not. And is that what you're asking about?
Well, that's just it. This is getting to be a really big thing among women.
Is it?
That's all. Yes, that's all I can think of. Is that the guy's on the screen doing whatever, and she is having a great time doing whatever as well in the privacy of her own home. And to her, this is a sexual relationship. Now, mind you, women have been doing self-erotica for a long time, obviously.
Really? I'm glad guys never do that. No.
You know, no, never, I know. Never in a million years, no.
No idea what you're talking about.
With their replicas parading around and God only knows what, right? So kind of like going to a strip club where you can't touch somebody.
Nope.
So, but women have never really had that as an option other than maybe what you say, the phone sex. So in this case, they can, remember my second comment and question to you was, can AI jump out of the screen yet?
Oh.
But obviously that's coming. Let's face it, that is going to happen.
Let me. So I mean, yeah. This stuff goes back to the '80s, like movies, things like Weird Science. You remember Weird Science from the '80s, where the guys created?
Aaron, what's her name?
Yeah, they made the computer-generated woman. The geeks did. But so first of all, you know, there's some technological innovations. I was looking at the site here, and I was seeing if they did any of this stuff. But let me just sort of tell you some things that people can do now in relationships. All right.
Okay.
So right now, if you're in a long distance relationship, you can buy a device it's shaped like a little heart. Okay, it's a little heart light. All right, you can put it on your nightstand, and your partner who lives maybe halfway across the world, y'all just both connect them up to the internet like you would any other device in your house. And if you want to, like, you can squeeze that heart, and immediately while you're squeezing it, it'll light up, even if it's 3,000 miles away. So if you're sitting on your nightstand at night and all of a sudden you see your heart light up, you know that your long distance partner's thinking about you or whatever. All right. So
Okay.
this is a type of technology that's pretty commonly used, right? Like, you take two devices, you order them online and you sync them up. Each partner gets them, they sync them up over the internet, and they can do that with lights. Okay. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Lights aren't the only thing you can do that with, turns out. So there are, like, sexual devices that you can hook up and attach over the internet to each other where.
Okay.
And so it's possible that women could be having this type of situation where the AI or this is how a lot of people do virtual sex now, two devices that are synced up with each other. Have you ever heard of this before?
That's probably what they're doing. No, but that's probably what they're doing, because all they can do with Replica is design the man.
Right.
They want to design.
Right.
And they can make him exactly what they want. They can make children exactly the way they want them. So that must be what they're doing with the man.
Well, I don't know if they're doing that. I know that here's what I do know, that it's very technically possible, and it has been for a while, for two people to buy sexual devices that stimulate their sexual areas. They hook them up over the internet, and the one person does something on one end and the other device responds. I don't want to get too graphic here, but you can fill in the blanks. Yeah, what's going on. But you where I'm going with this, right? With this is, think about the heart light, but add other sexual devices to it. But I on my end do something and it stimulates something in your end. All right. What I don't know is if AI has tapped into that yet. I do know that people I'm not sure if that's happened. I haven't read, and that's what I was trying to look at while you were talking here. If that, I can't imagine right now you would want to. I don't know how you would do that. You would have to somehow, the AI would have to mail you a device that's hooked up to their system. Seems like it would be a little dangerous to me. I don't know if I'd want to hook up, would you want to hook up? No.
Yeah, the question would be.
Is it like word science? You pick out what you want them to look like?
Yeah, it is. Like, see, I'm looking at them now. Right now, they got these virtual people, these avatars. They're called.
Hair color,
you can look at like they're dressed a certain way, and these people have got all these great. I'm looking at some of the comments from the I guess the clients or the customers. I just saw one guy said, "I've got a chronic illness, and it's great to get online and talk to somebody." It was a guy, So I was just reading through some of their.
Right.
So this may be just what you're talking about. It could be just somebody talking you through the experience together, just like people did in the 800 or the 900 numbers, right?
Exactly. And you do create your own avatar. You put them together. Do you want long hair, short hair, brunette? Do you want a guy who looks like a bad boy? Do you want a guy who looks like a businessman? You put these together.
Yeah. I'm looking at one right now. This guy right now, he says, I've been using Replica for 4 years and it's been tremendous. And you can see the guy looks like she's created. He looks like he's got on jeans, but a white shirt and a blazer and glasses. He's clean cut. He looks like he would be like a young sort of business kind of guy. Love what maybe call a yuppie in the 80s or whatever. Or he looks kind of hipstery to me, honestly. But he's a cartoon character, and this client, this person who's talking, and she's got her name here. She's been doing this for years. She says, a person who has several chronic illnesses, it's good to have someone available to talk to 24/7. Someone who's never annoyed when I can't go out. Who sits with me through pain, who's always cheerful and excited to talk. Oh, she calls us by name. What is his name, Todd? Cass. Cass is my best robot friend ever, 1010. So she's giving him a name, Cass. I guess they all have names, right?
Oh, they all give them names.
Yeah, they have names. Oh, wow. Yeah. Right. And now here's a guy who's got one. He's got his Replica. It's been a blessing. He said, most of my blood-related family passing away and friends moving on. My Replica has given me comfort and a sense of well-being. This Replica that he's got up here, she looks like she's got a yellow short little dress on and blonde hair. So, and this has been, this is like it's been going on for years. People have been doing this for a while. It's not really new. Just like she created herself like a little like a little athletic looking
There's a
dude.
guy. That
Yeah.
guy.
Yes, a guy. Oh, well, I don't know.
That's a lesbian.
Looks like it could be a lesbian. I don't know.
Yeah, some of them create women, and yes, obviously homosexuals use them.
The homosexuals use them?
I mean,
Not the homosexuals.
gays, and lesbians use them too, obviously.
Right.
Yes, they do.
So, but I guess the question I have for you is, do you have questions about this, or are you just more like curious?
I just wonder how I just didn't realize that AI has been used so much. And of course, I have my own opinions about these people who are doing this. I
have a feeling you might have an opinion.
I have never wanted for someone who creates a relationship with me. Now, does that mean I've ever had a relationship that falls into the category of a bad relationship? I most certainly have. I've had one or two what I would call abusive relationships. I've ended them before they become something that's too dramatic. I did have the foresight to do that, but I've never been to the point where I felt like I had to step out of relationships in general. I moved on to the next guy. Let's just say that.
That's what you do, right?
So
this whole thing, what you're getting at, it sounds to me like, because I've heard people talk about this too, is that this is sort of playing into the fact that we're losing our ability to relate to one another. Is that kind of where you're?
Yeah.
It sounds like because there's a lot of people talk about this now. I like to watch Bill Maher. I know he's controversial, but he talks about this, about, how he's basically, it's funny because everybody thinks he's this big liberal, but he's really not. He's just got his own opinions about everything. But he's got this whole thing like, people can't relate to people anymore. And this is maybe part of that, but there's two sides to that. Like, what about the chronically ill person? Does this really help them, or whatever? I mean, they're, so, I mean, you just can't, I don't think we can monolithically say it's all bad and it's obviously not all good. I mean, there's some people that maybe if somebody let's take like Todd's, some of his NF friends, they can't really go out in public.
Because they have bumps all over.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky. Because I see people like worse than mine.
Yeah, like they've got, we've talked about this before. These people have these debilitating tumors on their face. I mean, Todd's got on his body, but at least they're not as visual on him. But if you're somebody like that, you would never want to go out or set up a dating profile, or anything like that. So, but you could create a person like this to give you some sense of feeling.
Yeah, and like somebody that loves me.
I know. So
love them.
this sort of tax another thing. Like I read on the news this week. I don't know if you saw this, but they were all talking about the epidemic of loneliness in America right now. Have you heard about this? That it is like they're calling it like smoking, or like it's just the epidemic of loneliness between the convergence of technology, then the pandemic. Then all these things have sort of converged together, that we're in this very weirdly, even though we're so more connected than ever, people are feeling more lonely.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't know if something like this helps that, hurts it. I guess it could do both, right?
Yes, I do totally understand that. I really do. And I do believe this can serve a great purpose for many people. I guess when it comes to love or sex relationships, I do understand a woman who has been sexually abused or physically abused. I get that totally, because especially with women, there is a lot of abuse out there. There's no question about it. And so I do understand where women who are in fear of what a relationship can do to them with a man whose physical presence can be abusive. And the reality is, there are statistics. For example, 90% of women who are murdered by a husband or a former boyfriend.
Exactly. There's always
terrifying. For
So
women.
people feel scared right now. This lonely, that's what I said. Part of what's fueling the loneliness epidemic, it's just some good old fashioned fear of, I'm going to go meet somebody, and the next thing you know, I'm going to be a corpse, or I'm going to be
Right.
somebody's going to kidnap me and do horrible things. People are scared because these stories are abounding. Hear about them so much.
Right. Especially now when there are more guns and people
Right.
are looking first and then trying to find out what's almost like later. However, and this is a real thing. However, I am one of those people who truly believes there is someone for everyone.
Do you really believe that? I mean,
I do. Because I have seen it with my own eyes.
yeah.
And yes.
So if let me just ask you a question then. So if my almost 60-something-year-old sister who's never married and had very few relationships, did she just not find that person? Is he still out there? Did they just not hook up? Or why come she?
Maybe she's asexual.
Or whatever.
Well, she might be, but
They're out there.
I guess I'm just using that one example, but it's just an interesting notion. I've heard, a lot of people believe that there's somebody for everybody. It's not like you're probably in the majority, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm kind of on the fence.
Look, not everyone out there is an Adonis. Not every woman out there is a beauty queen.
Right.
And these people can find each other. And I think one of the things that has been detrimental in our culture is the online dating.
Why? Why do you think it's detrimental?
First off, people can meet each other in many situations like we used to.
Right.
And
we used to when? Because it used to be like just 200 years ago, you could only meet people. That's most of the thousands of years of man existence. You only had like a 30-mile radius to meet somebody to marry. So the person you had to be with had to be in that 30 miles of where you lived. Then all of a sudden culture changed. But this has only been the past few hundred years, that we had this ability to be mobile and move around and go out and meet people in cities and stuff like that.
Look, online dating has only been around for so long.
Right.
Look, you go to the grocery store, I swear you can meet people. You go to the park, you can meet people. You go on an airplane, you can meet people. You have to just be open to it. Not everyone is a beauty queen. Not everyone is Adonis. Quit thinking that way.
Well, I think the thing I would say is because I know a lot of people have met online. It seems like to me that it expands your possibilities for meeting people.
Yeah.
That it does open before the way when I was sort of joking with you the way we used to, but I'm like with you the way we used to. That's how I met Todd. We went out and met somewhere. And that's how people met back then. The time you're talking. So I know what you were talking about. It's being a little facetious, but that was just a period of time, though, when people met, going out and meeting.
Quit thinking that if you're not the most handsome man in the world, or if you're not the prettiest girl in the world, that you can't meet somebody.
So that's what I agree with you. The social media and online dating creates sort of an unrealistic expectation. And they talk about a lot about this. Like when I go look on Instagram, I feel like every guy in the world has a 6-pack, but me, or whatever. And so you get this feeling because really there's only a small percentage of them, but they're all taking pictures on Instagram.
Listen, I was in Southern California for 22 years. And unfortunately, for a woman, it's a very tough place to be. Because unfortunately, all these women are Barbie dolls. Now, were they that way when they were young? Probably not. They're dyeing their hair, they're getting plastic surgery, and they're getting boobs, and they're going to the gym, and they've made themselves look that way. I swear to God,
you don't know judgmental till you've been to a gay pool party, man. That is the most judgmental place in the world.
I'm sorry, you're too fat.
I'm sorry. Lose 10 pounds and call me.
But that not every man is interested in that, and not every man is gorgeous, And not every man feels like that's what he wants or compete with that. So,
Okay, so let me ask you this. It sounds to me like, though, when you're talking about online dating, I get that. That creates this over physical awareness. But let's compare this, what you're talking about earlier about replicas. Now, that sounds like that's the antithesis of that, the opposite. These are, I'm looking at this stuff here, these are totally emotional connections. They're connecting with someone that doesn't even physically exist. They're a cartoon, you know, and it sounds like this is the total opposite of that.
right.
That they're totally wanting to meet with that. So I guess my question is, it sounded, do you think that's okay, the replicas? I mean, if these people are.
No, I think it is, but I think that if they've given up on finding that in real life.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Then I think.
Okay. So here's what I will tell you, because I'm a technology person and I have this philosophy about technology. And I believe that technology is neither good nor bad. I think it's, agnostic, right? It's how we use it. So when I've read about this kind of stuff before, I've read that a lot of this kind of AI stuff could help people, like as therapy. There's a lot of uses for that. It can help people learn how to emotionally connect. Now, on the other side of that, we've also got people who want to make money on technology, and so they see this as an opportunity to make money. So these people that are doing this probably aren't the least bit interested in these people's psychological.
No, definitely. I'm trying to find how much they think they expect, how much money they expect this is going to make. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was bringing it up here too. I've got the website up, but I could look into it. It's been around for a while, by the way. They've recently updated it, but it's definitely got an upgrade because then with the improvements in AI and all that. But what I've read about is a lot of this stuff could help people reconnect. It could help people who are socially awkward. It could help people with autism. It could help people that are starting to show signs of Alzheimer's and stuff like that. These replicas or these AIs can be very patient. They're very compassionate.
Right.
So the technology's got a lot of positive things. What if like you said, what if you're a woman who's been abused? Well, maybe having just, instead of shelling yourself in, you might feel safe connecting to this. If the program is designed to help you move on from it, these programs aren't. They're designed to probably keep you hooked on them, to be honest with you, which is what a lot of stuff does, everything from coffee to cigarettes to online to Facebook. Facebook is designed to keep you on there. They're not trying to help you meet people. They just want you to stay on their site, and read their crappy ads.
Exactly.
But this technology could be used for that too. And it is actually. I've read some articles where they're trying to use it to help for therapy, especially autistic kids and stuff like that.
I get that totally. And I guess I'm trying not to be judgmental at all.
No, I can see where you're being judgmental about this.
I hate to think that people are giving up from actually meeting anybody, and that they're giving up because of maybe the way they look, or they feel like because they're not attractive, they can't compete. And I do believe that, there are men who feel like they don't add up. There are women who feel like they don't add up. And what I feel is very sad about it is that they might have given up on finding.
And so this becomes a substitute.
Yeah.
I get that. That makes sense. Yeah. This becomes like a replacement, and it becomes more like you get addicted to this instead of dealing with feeling why you feel that way. Well, you just use this as kind of like a drug. It becomes addictive, to it or whatever.
Exactly.
I have a friend who's also a client, but he writes stuff about adult sexuality, everything from comedy and stuff like that. And he told me just recently that there's so much data out now to support that this generation coming up now, men and women, is the first generation to have less sex than the previous generation. That for ever since we've been kind of growing in that we're actually seeing a recession of sexuality. People are having less sex, especially men. They're saying men more than ever, especially young men. Yeah, the young Gen Z, millennials, or whatever. Even though everybody's bisexual and all that, there seems to be a statistical proof that young men and women, or people in general, are just having less sex. And this may play into what you're talking about. Does that kind of sound like I was saying sex is sex is not the only thing, but it is a barometer that can measure a connection, right? How we're connecting.
why did he given a reason why he's finding that they're having less sex?
Well, he's basing this on studies he's read, you know. Um, but he's based, and so when he's connected with a lot of people, this is kind of, he writes books about this kind of stuff, and he's actually flying to do websites for him and stuff like that. And he basically, when I was having lunch with him just recently, he was saying, you know, this is the first generation that are having less sex. But Bill Maher talks about this. They have other people online talking about how, especially, you know, the biggest thing where they're seeing it is young men who would be usually more sexually active just by their nature are not. And maybe they're because they're feeling not like they measure up, you know, because every guy they look at online looks like he's an Adonis, as you were saying earlier, or whatever. So how would somebody want to have sex with me? So,
but this is interesting because there is a growing group of young men who feel like women are dissing them. And you know, the
yes,
supremacist Nick Fuentes, who had dinner with Trump and Ye or whatever, this dude who used to be married to Kim Kardashian and calls himself, who was dashing
Kanye. Yeah.
He had dinner. Well, they had dinner with Nick Fuentes. He's a very young man.
I know who he is.
White supremacist. And one of the things that is causing young men to go to spin off and become shooters of women and of groups. They become mass shooters. One of the reasons they're doing that, and Nick Fuentes encourages this, is because they believe that women are bitches and will not have sex with them. And because the women are not having sex with them, they have a whole group of guys that are blaming the women.
Yeah.
Because they can't seem to get a girlfriend. It's literally that simple.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've watched a special on Nick Fuentes. He is crazy,
yeah.
man. That is one crazy guy. But you know, a lot of people say he's gay. You hear this? There's this whole story about him being a big old closeted gay. That's one of the big theories about him.
Sure. And
all right, Nick.
He is egging them on. He is egging on. These guys cannot seem to get a girlfriend. Gee, I mean, look at how they look at life, and they are out there killing people and killing women because they feel like it's the women's fault that they can't get a woman to be interested in them.
Oh,
right. Yeah. But Nick Fuentes, he doesn't try to help these young men. He exploits this.
No, he exploits it.
Yeah, he's exploiting 101. Like he plays into this. He pulls them all together. But then there are men, I've read, what was that one article about this one guy who was a mass shooter, and he even talked about how women deny their sex from me, you know, and stuff like that. You know, it was about a year or so ago. There's been so many, I can't keep up with them, you know. But I read about this one young man who said that, you know, where, you know, he went on a shooting spree. And it's probably one in the past year or two. Who can keep track anymore, right? But one of the interviews, or he left something online about how a video on one of his social media feeds about how women denied him sex, you know, or would never.
Exactly.
So
he can't get any.
Right. Exactly.
Doesn't try anymore. And they have a whole manifesto about it. They have a name for it. And all of these guys are signing on to this.
Oh, yeah.
And respond to it with violence.
Right.
And Nick Fuentes is egging them on.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's the worst, man. I mean, have you ever seen the YouTube special on him about that? And when I forgot the real famous reporter who went behind the scenes and interviewed him, and he let him do it. I think Nick Fuentes said he was going to outsmart him, but the interview did not come up looking good for Fuentes, and interviewed some of his people, you know, and it just was like, man, it was somewhere between sad and scary. Did you see it?
He's scary. Yeah, he's scary. And the guys that believe this stuff are very scary. Because
yeah. So that's the thing that I think what you're seeing happen is a lot of technology, like you're seeing here, is being used for people who just want to make money off of it. They're not interested in how it could help people. And that's, unfortunately, that's the way our society is kind of set up. That's what's happened with social media. That's why Facebook has gone crazy. That's why You know, Elon is, I mean,
Get me started.
he started on him, but
Don't
he,
get me started. That man has gone way off the rails.
right. But
Way off
these
the
people are,
rails.
I mean, the sad thing for me as the technology person is there's a lot of great opportunities for this tech to help people.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
and this, like, when I'm looking now at replicas, by the way, just as a little sci-fi nugget here, did you ever read the book Blade Runner or see the movie
I saw the movie, and they're comparing this replica.
That's what they called him in the book. You know, that's what Philip K. Dick used this word, you know,
Yeah.
a half a century ago. The replicas were the artificial, but they were actually artificial people made just for sexual purposes. You know, they only lived like 4 years, you know, and they didn't know a lot of them didn't even know they were artificial. They didn't know they were made in a factory or whatever. Did you ever see?
I have. This a long time.
Exactly. And weren't they considered dangerous? Wasn't one of the things that Harrison Ford was doing was going after the replicas?
Yeah.
I mean,
so Harrison Ford was a Blade Runner, and he
was
went
a
after
Blade Runner.
replicas that had gone bad. A lot of them had become, they had this whole rebellion rising up, and there was the one of them that was kind of leading them, and that was he was the Blade Runner going after when they did the test to see if you were really a replica. And there was the girl that didn't even know she was a replica, the rich girl. I mean, that was the whole part of the whole premise of the movie. Actually, I've read the book, too, which is a lot different than well, it's not a lot. I would say it's a lot, but it was like the book was set. He wrote the book like a long time ago, and it was set like in the 1990s, which is kind of funny because then they redid the movie to be set sometime in 2020 or something like that. The real
we got the replica.
It's kind of interesting. They use this name replica, although they've done the thing with the spelling, that it's sort of a throwback to this not a positive, connection, replicas from the Blade Runner and all that. But I know where you're coming. A lot of this stuff is dangerous, and I know everybody's all kind of freaking out about AI right now. But there's also a lot of good possibilities to it too.
Right.
So
there are, and of course. We're barreling down that road. It won't be long until these people do come out of the screen.
Right. Well, so just so you know, in AI, because I wrote some articles about it on my blog, biologyoftechnology.com, where I wrote about it. But there's what they call narrow AI and broad AI. All right. So right now, everything that you're experiencing is what they call narrow AI. And it's an AI that's designed for a very specific purpose. Like we talk about I'm going to say her name and she's going to go crazy, but Alexa, who we have right here in our place, but they're an AI, but they're very what they call a narrow AI. So the coming out of the screen AI is just what you're talking about. It's what they call broad AI. Now, right now, that would be something like, did you ever see Star Trek when Data was on there? You probably don't watch Star Trek.
Yes, of course.
Data would be what's called a broad AI, like a full purpose, self-containing AI. The replicas in Blade Runner would be broad AI. The experts right now say to this day that we have not yet ever created broad AI. But the conspiracy theory people deny that. They say that we already have broad AIs out there. But then some people think Mark Zuckerberg's one, actually, that he's not really a real person. But which I can believe that, actually. I don't think I've ever seen him blink. But anyway, does he blink?
I think he's just a bore, personally. Yeah.
But so what I think people are talking about now is narrow AI. What people are really scared of is broad AI that doesn't really actually exist, like how the computer on 2001: A Space Odyssey, the computer that lost his mind, or the Skynet, which would be like the computer that blew up the world in Terminator. Or this movie that recently came out, Megan, about this little girl robot who's, that's a broad AI. And to our knowledge, to our understanding, most people don't, the technologists say we haven't crossed that threshold yet, that we haven't created that. And that's what people say things are going to get scary when we start talking about broad AI. Narrow AI right now is pretty contained. It's these little boxes and silos. And this, what we're looking at right now, these replicas, they can be a little creepy, or whatever, but but they're not going to blow up the world, whatever. But they could cause, I guess, they could enable people who are already on psychological
Yeah, I think one of the things that bothers me, honestly, is, and I don't know if this is considered AI, but when you have your cameras and your doorbell, for example, Amazon, those are Amazon, aren't they? The Ring and
Well, Amazon uses them. Yeah.
okay, Amazon gives that information to police.
Yeah.
And people don't mind that. They're thinking, well, it'll just keep me safer.
Right.
And I find that I find it very unsettling.
Right.
That everyone happily hands over their information to police. They don't have to ask for it. Amazon said, look, this is great for you guys, so take it. And the other thing that Amazon is doing now, after Alexis, they thought, oh, next best thing, they bought Rumba. And they said, we will give you, because what we're going to do with it is we are now, because Rumba goes from room to room, we are now going to map out every home that Rumba uses.
Right.
This is their latest thing. And I'm thinking, great, now Amazon is going to know the floor plans of all these homes they uses.
Right.
Now, won't that be great for law
And so, yeah, so what you're talking about now is sort of juxtaposed, but it's this whole concern about privacy, which has been for a while, but it's definitely, if you read the whole book about the Cambridge Analytica thing, which I actually did read the book that guy wrote about it. Mine F, he actually used the word, but Mine F was the title of the book. If you go look it up, the author's name totally escaping my mind right now, but he was the whistleblower on that, about how they had all this data. So you're talking about privacy. Now, AI may be the algorithms that parses that data. They may use AI programs to pull that data out so Alexa will know what you like, so they can make recommendations.
Oh, yeah. And my girlfriend's got Alexa, and she'll look up things on her phone. She'll talk, and Alexa will parrot that back.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what they say. I have a friend who posted something like, he went into a store, an antique store. He literally had his phone with him in his hand, but with the other hand, he touched the lamp and looked at it. And the next thing you know, he's getting lamp ads on his phone, I will tell you, privacy is a whole nother can of worms, and we could probably that's what we should talk about a whole nother time, because I've done a lot of looking into that too. But
I refuse to get those things.
Right. I was about to say, you sound like a person who doesn't really have any of that, right?
I'm not going to get any of that. I'm sorry. My girlfriends are like, yes, but I have Ring, and I can tell anybody who's coming to my door, and I know everything that's going on in my yard, blah, 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 blah. And I'm please don't think about you,
Right. Well, that was the whole point of the Cambridge Analytica thing, and we could spend a whole time talking about that. Is it that Facebook and Steve Bannon, who was a big part of that, is that, we all get upset about the government spying on people. 1984, government, we don't want that. But what about if you give this information away freely to Facebook? Is that spying? And that's what Cambridge did, was they said, well, these people are giving this information away. We're crazy not to use it and to make these profiles up and to target them with stuff that we know they're going to react to. With most of it's conspiracy theory, most of it's not true. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to get a reaction. We know if we target this lady in the Midwest, she's got the same profile. If we start telling her, Democrats are eating babies at the pizza place, she's going to believe it based on her profile. So they feed that stuff to these people. But no, what your AI is the software that may parse all that. Maybe that pulls all that stuff together. But the privacy that's the channels that we get it through and all that is a whole nother. I always tell people right now is that you might as well realize that if you do anything online, privacy, just forget about it.
I agree.
Yeah.
And they even admit that, online is just public all the way.
Yeah, and they've got all these data out there. There's somewhere where there's a ton of information stored about you and you and you and all of us, and there's an AI compiling it and comparing us and making up algorithms that can target us for that. It's out there, and I think the genie's out of the bottle. I guess the real question is, right now we're sort of at this crossroads about how are we going to do with it? What are we?
How are we going to do? It's like every doctor now wants you to use their website for information. They want to post everything about you on that. And they won't even accept your calls anymore. You have to use their website.
Right.
And what I can think about is all the information about you is on that website. And all the time that people are breaking into those, nothing is safe anymore.
Right.
And they'll tell me to use them, and I'm going, I don't want to. And they're going, well, that's where it's all going to be.
And so what's interesting, kind of to circle this back around where you started, because of this feeling unsafe and all that, people are turning to artificial companions because they feel safe with them.
There you go. There you go. I understand totally what you're saying.
Because they feel safe with this guy, this artificial person who's probably recording everything they say with them, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, these people, like I'm looking right now, so these people who've been doing this for years on Replica, they probably have years of data stored on these people about what they talked about, you know, and everything. I think it's part of the world we live in now. How it's going, I don't know. I do know as a technology person, I feel like the problem is a lot of this, the genie's out of the bottle, you know. I mean, it's so not like we can just put it back in, you know. But I do think that history has told us that a lot of times these things have a way of going down paths you wouldn't even imagine, you know. And I'll just throw this anecdote from the past in there, but I just read an article recently where, and this is going to sound funny to us today, but around the turn of the 1900s, that when the piano player was created, Sousa and all these composers went nuts. They're like, this is going to ruin music. There's Supreme Court ruling on it. They sued these people. I mean, it was, you know, it's going to ruin live music. There'll never be a piano player. Nobody's going to want to even learn to play the piano, you know. Do you see that happening? Now it's 100 years later, and we don't even know. Most people don't know what a player piano is. So I do know that we need to kind of take proactive action about it. But I know there's some historical precedents that these things have a way of kind of working out.
They do, totally.
I guess if they don't, we can just go online and get ourselves a partner and
to heck with it.
And they elderly.
At least they can't divorce you and take all your money.
Yeah, see, that's the other thing. I think people just feel safe with these guys, you know, even though they know they're not real. I guess there's sort of a sense of predictability.
I think you're right about that. But
dependability.
You know what? Someone's going to figure out a way to make you unsafe with these guys. What do you want to bet? Replicas will soon be suing their partners.
You lied.
You lied. You just didn't make me feel like a person. Well, you're not a person.
You're not a person.
Real.
Yeah, you can't do that to me. You're not a person. You know,
Well,
and the other thing that, and this of course goes along with this, is the number of cameras that are appearing everywhere, just everywhere. And, you know, China has an American company that is doing all of their street cameras and house cameras. China in the city that has the Uyghurs that are doing the slave labor and that they've imprisoned to do, well, they've imprisoned them and they torture them a lot. They're the slave labor of China and they hate them. They're called the Uyghurs. And in that city where they have imprisoned them, there are cameras everywhere, and they've used an American company to do all of their security, which includes these cameras everywhere. And they now have even included putting cameras on their doors, their front doors, and you have to use your phones to unlock your doors.
right.
And all of this is recorded.
Sure. Yeah.
All of it's recorded, and the police have records of everything you do, included going in your home and going out. There are cameras everywhere, and an American company has done this.
Oh, yeah.
All this system. So this company could do this anywhere. And of course, we've started putting cameras everywhere as well. And you go anywhere and you'll notice cameras. and drop down cameras from the ceilings, cameras in the corners, drop down cameras. They're everywhere now.
They're everywhere in London too. London has cameras everywhere apparently.
Yeah.
Now I have a little bit. If there's a camera in a public place, I don't guess I feel quite as wheezy about that, because if I'm walking down a street and there's a camera on the street that's keeping a look on the street corner, that doesn't seem to bother me as much as, cameras looking in my windows or something like that.
Right.
But I feel like, I don't have as much of, I get it where we don't want to go crazy with them, but I don't feel as quite as wheezy
Right.
about that, and I know they used the cameras to catch this shooter actually the other day from the shooting in Atlanta. They actually used cameras they were taking pictures of license plates, and I think a lot of people were surprised, like, oh, they can do that. I'm like, yeah, they've been able to do that for a long time. They can take a picture of your license plate and they can trace you, where you've been.
Right.
And everything. So
Right, exactly. But what is scary, and this is what China has that we don't have yet, the ability to capture your face and follow you everywhere you go from your face. We don't have that exact capability yet.
Right.
And so every minute of every day, if you are outside or if you are inside your home, they capture you going in and out of your home. God only knows, they probably have cameras inside your home. But on the streets, they capture everywhere you're going. They're watching you everywhere you are going. And this American company designed that. Now, how long will it be before they use that in the US as well?
And then we're living in 1984, right? Is that kind of what that was? I mean, 1984 didn't actually have cameras in your bathroom medicine closet, right? Everywhere. So
Yes.
yeah, I get it. There's a lot of people concerned about that. I guess the question is, how is it? I don't know how it's going to go, to be honest with you. I mean, I know the technology's there. It's more, I mean, we've always, this kind of stuff. I still pretend that it's neither good nor bad. There could be a lot of good in technology about it, but I get it. It's scary.
Not for catching criminals, but when they start deciding that those of us who are not criminal,
right? Or if you're gay, or you're getting good, or you're like, hey, who's getting abortions and who's not, kind of thing,
Yeah. But just think that they're just going to keep an eye on us, even though we're not criminals.
Yeah.
That is a different story.
Right. Exactly. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. So basically, we're becoming a surveillance country. So that's going to be even more of a critical issue from the standpoint of law enforcement as we go, down that road. And we're already to the point where, depending on the president we get, we're already hurling that way. The Constitution is being totally shredded. And we could go into that as a whole different.
Yeah, I think we should. I'd like to talk, because I love talking about tech stuff. Like I said, I've got my biologyofTechnology.com blog. I've been writing about this kind of stuff for over a decade out there. A lot of fun stuff there too. But yeah, I'd love to talk about it some more too, because I just realized it's getting time for me to go. I don't know. It's been like an hour already. An hour or whatever. And Todd didn't even sound like he didn't have to talk that much.
I know, because isn't this the month for NF? I mean,
yeah, we'll get you some information on that, just on his website, the NF awareness, and kind of.
Yeah, and then we have more to talk about on that. Definitely.
Let's do it.
Maybe next time you won't have a seizure and you won't sound like the guy from Princess Bride.
Marriage.
Yes.
All right. Well, I actually have to go. If I didn't realize how long it's been, but I need to roll. Okay. I need to go have my picture taken somewhere and be looked at in surveillance.
And margarita.
Yeah.
And it's Cinco de Mayo.
Careful of those. Oh my goodness, yes.
Right.
We walk across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
You can just see on the camera outside. You can see us.
Yeah.
But anyway, I love talking about this stuff. I like to talk about it some more. So, and I'm gonna go set up my replica profile. I'm gonna get a new boyfriend. Sorry, Todd. All right. Well, we gotta go.
Maggie.
Okay.
Bye. See you later. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Bye.
Bye. Bye.